This is Vince from Fashion Interiors, and I'm excited to welcome you all back on another episode of Hashtag The Show, the official catch-up session every Friday for our fellow home enthusiasts. More and more people are now realizing the importance of incorporating sustainability in their homes. But with so many options available in the market, how does one incorporate their own style in the concept of sustainability? Good thing that we have architects and interior designers to help us with this. Today, we are very thrilled as one of the most premier architects in the country will be joining us today. But before that, let me share with you the most recent events that happened in the showroom. And by the way, let us know in the comment section below where you're joining from today. Let's go! Fashion Interiors recently held an art exhibit by Gil Bien in its 2,000 square meter showroom. Michelle Villamor and other lovely guests joined us to celebrate art and visual design. During the early years of Gil Bien, the subject of his paintings were leaning into surrealism and realism. Inspired by his most respected icons Salvador Dali, Mondrian, and his mentor and close friend Gus Alvor. Overall, it was a night to remember. So as promised, we are here today to interview one of the well-known architects in the country. He was the one to introduce the concept of Eco House. Known for not playing it safe when it comes to architectural and interior design, our guest is none other than Architect James Jao. Okay, so thank you for being here, Architect James Jao. So how are you feeling today?
I feel great! Today is the Valentine's Day and it's a celebration of love, life, and of course, happiness!
So how did your Valentine's go?
We just started today, so I hope it will end up in a blissful manner.
So having been our client for the past many years, what made you a loyal customer?
It's not only years, it's decades.
Decades.
Number one is design, number two, quality, and number three, of course, service.
Having been in the architecture and design, what is your most significant project of your career?
I would say the most significant project that I have accomplished in my career as an architect and interior designer is the Kite House. Not only on the scale and size, but also of the significance because it's iconic. It was featured on the front page, cover story of Blueprint magazine, of Philippine Tatler Homes and other magazines. And it was well celebrated and of course the design journalists really acclaimed on it.
So having accomplished all of your projects for the past decades with us, can you say that you were at the peak in your career?
I would say yes, but just like I would describe the profession, it's like a dance, like a ballet. You're as good as your last dance. So never stop dancing, and you always should be on your tiptoe and give your best dance.
Oh, that's very well said. In your design approach, where do you get your inspiration?
Of course, I get it particularly from my client. The moment I see them, I absorb their energy, and from that energy, that's where I root the design inspiration. Because my client has to inspire me to create something for them. Because at the end of the day, of course, it may be their project, but it should be my interpretation of how they feel and what is their character that brings out the best design solution for every project.
In your previous projects, of course, not all clients are very friendly and all. How do you cope up with people that are very hard to talk to, especially clients?
In the design profession, of course, there's like a spectrum of clientele, just like a spectrum of projects. Of course, the most really tedious is the residential project because you deal with the character of the client, not only particularly of the husband and wife, which sometimes they don't get along. And then as a designer, we need to be the arbiter to make sure that they compromise and agree on a particular solution. So that's challenging. But then if you address their concern and their design criteria, it's satisfying at the end of the project. On the other side, the commercial is even easier in terms because the given is there and they just need to follow the design criteria from the beginning up to the end. So that's a big difference between residential, commercial, and even institutional because it's kind of fixed with this institutional project. But of course, mas creative din minsan yung residential.
As a designer or architect, is there really an age limit to where you should start or until what age you can stop designing? Because a lot of designers right now are very young and then they don't get a taste of that market.
Oh yes, surprisingly, a lot of the younger generation are getting into the bandwagon, I should say, of being a designer, particularly interior design. But even architecture, a lot of young people are getting into architecture. But the point is, yes, there are new designers, but it takes experience to be a great designer. And there's a thin line between that because just like a stone, as you are polished, you will shine more. So, like a diamond in the sky, di ba? It's a song, right? Sino kumanta nun?
So, what advice can you give to the younger generation, especially the younger generation who is really into interior design but doesn't have that solid experience?
Okay, number one, gain experience. Learn from the masters, just like what I did. I have to do research from the previous masters. Like in architecture, my idol is Leandro Locsin in the Philippines, and in the international scene, I made a research on Frank Lloyd Wright, which is the father of modernism in American architecture and in the world. And of course, in Europe, I have Mies van der Rohe and Le Corbusier. These are the Bauhaus era. So learn from the masters, get experience, and be humble because design is always a learning process from the start of the design project up to the end. And there's no such thing as age limit. Maybe as long as you age well and you have the capacity to do the profession and deliver to your clients, then you can do the business. It's really inspiring.
Through the years that you've been studying design, where have you been? Have you studied only in the Philippines? Did you travel a lot? Did you go to a lot of places to get research and information?
Yeah, it's very important in the life of a designer. Of course, we got educated with our undergraduate courses here in the Philippines, but I did my master's degree in London. But beyond that, traveling. You have to experience the different places, the different culture, the different spaces. And you have to live in those spaces to be able to create new oneself for your next project.
So, you are a renowned architect interior designer. Which hierarchy of design you consider most valuable, cutting edge or eco-friendly?
Okay, so we have come to the age of sustainability and consciousness on the protection of Mother Nature has come to our civilization nowadays. So I think I would go first now on the sustainability and eco-friendly approach in design because I believe that creating an eco-friendly design is also a gateway for you to create an iconic design without sacrificing Mother Nature. So that's utmost important. Because at the end of the day, as an architect and designer, we need to respect one another.
So in the Philippines is known for our craftsmen and our talent, But what can you say about protecting our own designs, copying designs like our IP rights?
The intellectual property rights in the Philippines, it's not in its greatest strength. Unlike in the other countries, plagiarism happens a lot in terms of design. Copycat, copy paste, it's all there. It's happening, especially with the younger designers. You can see them because now in the advent of technology and social media, it's easier for them to just click on the search for particular design and they can just grab it, download it, and copy it. But beyond that, they should evolve to be able to come up with their own character, with their own significance in the field of design. So that's very important to creating your own identity.
Since now that you're a renowned architect, have you ever thought of putting up your own school on teaching the younger generation in interior design or architecture?
Education is very important, and of course, I've been offered several times to teach, to become part of the academy. But the only hindrance with me is time. And because whenever you get involved in the academic profession, you need to give time. You really need to devote because I don't want to shortchange my students because I'm not there. But despite that, I've been a speaker in different symposium and webinars talking about my design and my design approach. So I think in a way, I reached out even to the younger generation.
So having said that, how in the earlier years of you been starting architecture, how did you find your piece that made you say, this is who I am? This is my style.
Okay, this I must tell to other young designers. At an early age, you cannot say that this is me. You have to go through the process of evolution. You have to evolve, from a designer to a significant designer with your own identity. And I must say, I was able to achieve that at the age of 40.
Well, while you were young, how did you know that you want to take up design?
From early on, because my mother was a gift from my father about interior design. So I would, even in high school, I would browse through it page by page, look at the floor plans, look at the design. So I think that was a way of me learning. It was a gateway. There's only one book in the library, in the bookshelves of my mother on interior design. Because maybe my father was trying to encourage my mom to learn how to do home decorating at the time it was called. So that was a gateway for me. So that started my interest in design. And later on, I would watch TV shows with design. So that really inspired me to get into the direction of the architecture education.
So what if you're not an architect now? What will you be?
My next option in high school was to get into the theater or the performing arts. Because at that time, one of my teacher in high school encouraged me, are you sure you want to get into architecture? Or you would rather be in mass communication or in the performing arts? So I said, no, I really want to become an architect in the future. So I think I followed my heart.
Following your heart, has that been how did your parents react to that you wanted to take architecture? There's some parents they
decided for you. Okay, let me tell you this. Of course, they really wanted me to become an architect, but not to become a painter. Because at that time, they felt that being a painter is not a sure economic profession. But being an architect, that's more of economically rewarding. But following my heart, yes, I followed my heart and entered into the Bachelor of Science in Architecture. But still, I followed my subconscious, which is get into the theater. Because when I was in college, I really enrolled in the theater workshop under the National Artist Orlando team. That was when I got exposed in the performing arts in a professional manner, because after the workshop, I was hired as a stage manager, particularly as an understudy for stage design, stage lighting, and even in costume. So if I am a fashionista, as you can see me now,
Yes, I like the outfit.
I think the inspiration was from the theater. How you put colors on stage, how you combine colors on the set. I learned that from the theater. And having that experience from a national artist, no less than, is far from being the most rewarding experience in theater.
Have you considered being a fashion designer?
Not really. Not really. Not really, but I love selecting fabrics, of course, not only in my interior design projects, but even for myself. Like I do, a lot of my clothes are custom design.
So, in one word, how would you describe your style and design?
Iconic. Whenever I come up with design, I want it to be out of the box, not out of the ordinary, but then it must have a soul and a character. A design that speaks when you look at it. A design that tells you who they are, what they are, and when the time they were built. Because I do not want to create a design, the pseudo time, like to pretend that it was created in this particular year. No. It is the now. The design of the now is now, and then in the future it will speak that it was designed on that particular time.
Before creating like a beautiful space from your projects, is there a specific timeline or a specific procedure that you follow, that you always follow, to make it look like James Jao?
Yeah, we always go through the process from the floor plan. Of course, I have to meet with the client, I have to get their design requirements, and I have to come up with the initial layout, and it will evolve. It will go through the process from the design concept to the floor plans, to the design, and even to the details of the materials, the textures, the lighting, etc. So at the end of the day, it varies. It can be like a quick moment, or it can be a more tedious process. It depends on how we work on the project.
Have you ever felt so drained or exhausted since you almost do this every day? Because like in the younger generation now, just because they couldn't come up with their own unique design, they give up. Have you ever felt that way?
Yeah, of course, we're all but human. At the end of the day, sometimes it's your mind, beyond physical, your mind is working. So like you really need to bring out the best in your design capabilities. But then it's rewarding as well. So of course, at the end of the day, you need to relax and have a good wine, have a good dinner, and that's it.
So, having seen the Fashion Interiors 2022 collection, what touchstones of design gives you inspiration?
Oh my gosh, it was really exciting to view and go through the different rooms of the Fashion Interiors 2022 collection. And I must say, that's very Fashion Interiors. Every year they come up with something exciting. And this year I find it very, very like earthy. Earthy in the sense that you have used a lot of natural materials, and it's like almost like a resort feel, very homey, very warm, from the use of natural wood. Like you have the ash wood, you have the railroad wood, you have the natural rattan caning, you even have the, what do you call this? Bladed, that's all. Yeah, like bladed wood top or legs. it looks very much severe and endured for, for a wood, but then it brings out the character of the wood. It may not need so much design ornamentation or details, but the texture itself speaks for the character of the furniture. The resort feel is there, which a lot of people now are getting to a more like resort. Having gone through this pandemic, a lot of people have gone to their like weekend houses, country houses, suburban houses, or provinces, as you say, here in the Philippines. They want to be in touch with nature. They want to touch. They want to feel. And the furniture that we have presented speaks up for that kind of moment, and which I love it.
So, do you have any specific item here that you really love, that touched you the most?
Yes, and I say the moment I saw it, it's not only the design, but the comfort of how it feels when I sat in it. And that is the speedy chair made of raffia. The touch of the raffia, very, it's like unwoven, but the natural feel of it. And the contour of the speedy chair like really supports your lower back. It's a lounge chair, but then at the end of the day, you can just sit down there and dream and be inspired.
So, last question, Architect James, before I let you go. In your point of view, because we want to know your point of view on how fashion interiors separates us from other brands.
Okay, number one, I have said earlier, is design. Because every year you come up with a new collection. And as a designer, we always look forward to what's in store for the following year. And then coming here, I always bring my client here because I really want them to feel how their future house will look like. Because with the different settings that you have, they can really like match their character to the setting that you are presenting. Because each setting of furniture has a different style.
So that's it, everyone. Thank you so much, Architect James Jao,
Thank
for
you,
visiting
Vince.
us.
And of course, thank you to all the viewers. And then we hope that we can have this kind of conversation again in another topic on design.
Okay, that's all, everyone. This is Architect James Jao. This is Vince from Fashion Interiors, and we'll see you guys again. Thank you.
Ciao!